You are not meant to be there! Get down at once!
What is this sorcery? Guards, seize her!
No! I am here now!
There is a very specific kind of silence that falls over Buckingham Palace when someone touches the throne. Not admiration, not curiosity. Fear. Because inside the monarchy, the throne was not furniture. It was power itself. And on the night of the Queen's winter reception, more than 200 aristocrats, diplomats, and royal officials watched in horror as a young palace maid calmly sat down on it, without the slightest trace of fear on her face. The glass of champagne slipped from Lady Victoria's hand first. It shattered across the marble floor. Nobody even looked down, because every eye inside the throne room was locked on the same terrifying sight. The maid. She couldn't have been older than 20-5. Dark hair tied neatly behind her back. Simple black servant uniform. White gloves. Ordinary. Painfully ordinary. And yet somehow she looked completely comfortable sitting on the Queen's throne. As if she had done it before. The palace staff immediately went pale. One elderly royal servant whispered under his breath, "Oh God." Because everyone working inside Buckingham Palace understood one thing very clearly. Touching the throne without permission was unthinkable. Sitting on it? Career-ending. Possibly. Arrest-worthy. Historically catastrophic. And yet the girl simply rested one hand against the golden armrest and calmly observed the ballroom around her. Almost like she was studying it. Then came the voice that shattered the room. "What exactly do you think you are doing?" Queen Margaret had arrived. The entire ballroom froze instantly. The Queen stood at the entrance of the throne room wearing a silver evening gown and enough diamonds to blind half the diplomats present. Beside her stood Prince Edward, the future king, and judging from the expression on his face, even he looked terrified for the maid. Lady Victoria recovered first. Of course she did. Cruel people often regained confidence quickly when they sensed weakness nearby. "She's one of the new servants." "Your Majesty," Victoria said smugly. "I warned the staff standards were slipping." Several aristocrats laughed quietly. The maid slowly stood from the throne. But instead of apologizing, she looked directly at the Queen. Calmly. That was the moment the atmosphere changed, because servants did not look at monarchs like equals. They looked downward. Nervously. Fearfully. This girl did not. Queen Margaret noticed it. 2. "You have exactly 5 seconds, the Queen said coldly, "to explain yourself before security removes you from this palace permanently." The room waited for panic. Begging. Crying. Humiliation. Instead, the maid glanced around the throne room slowly. Then she asked a question that made several palace aides stop breathing. "Has no one told Her Majesty?" Silence. Prince Edward frowned immediately. "Told her what?" The maid removed her white gloves carefully. And that was when the first royal advisor turned pale, because on her right hand was a signet ring carrying a symbol almost nobody alive recognized anymore. Except the monarchy. A golden crest belonging to House Alderbridge, the lost bloodline. The room shifted instantly. One elderly historian physically stepped forward in shock. "No," he whispered. "That's impossible." Lady Victoria laughed nervously. "This is absurd." She probably bought it online. But nobody joined her laughter this time, because Queen Margaret herself had gone completely still. The Queen recognized the crest immediately, and, judging by the sudden fear in her eyes, that recognition was very bad news for everyone in the room. The maid finally spoke. Softly, "My name is Eleanor Alderbridge." Several aristocrats visibly stiffened. The Queen's face lost color, because Eleanor Alderbridge was not a servant. She was the last surviving descendant of a royal bloodline older than the current monarchy. itself, a family erased from public history after a political scandal nearly destroyed the crown generations earlier, officially. The Alderbridge family disappeared. Unofficially. The monarchy spent decades making sure nobody ever spoke their name again, and now one of them was standing inside Buckingham Palace. Dressed as a maid, Prince Edward looked completely blindsided. "You worked here as a servant?" he asked quietly. Eleanor finally looked at him. "Yes. Why?" Her answer destroyed the room. "Because I wanted to see what kind of people had inherited my family's throne." The silence afterward felt violent. Lady Victoria's expression cracked first, because suddenly every cruel order she had barked at Eleanor over the last 3 months became horrifying. Insults, the humiliation, the public disrespect, all directed at someone with a bloodline technically superior to the Queen herself, and Eleanor had endured all of it. Quietly. Watching, learning, judging. Queen Margaret stepped forward slowly now. For the first time that evening, the Queen no longer looked powerful, she looked nervous. "You should have announced yourself," the Queen said. Carefully, Eleanor's expression remained unreadable. Would it have changed how your palace treated people beneath them? Nobody moved after that. Because everyone in the ballroom knew the answer. No. It would not have. Prince Edward stared at Eleanor differently now, not as a servant, not even as royalty. But as someone dangerous, someone intelligent enough to walk into Buckingham Palace disguised as a maid and expose the entire monarchy without raising her voice. Once. Then came the final humiliation. An elderly royal historian approached Eleanor slowly before bowing his head respectfully. In front of everyone. Ballroom nearly collapsed into panic. Because if the historian acknowledged her claim publicly, it meant the bloodline was real. And that meant the woman aristocrats mocked for polishing silverware all winter had a stronger royal claim than half the family standing in the palace. Lady Victoria looked physically ill now. I didn't know," she whispered weakly. Eleanor finally turned toward her and smiled politely. "That," she replied softly, "was the point." 3 days later, newspapers across Britain leaked rumors about the mysterious maid connected to the lost royal bloodline. Palace officials denied everything publicly. But inside Buckingham Palace, staff behavior changed overnight. Servants were suddenly treated more carefully, aristocrats became quieter, and Queen Margaret personally requested private meetings with Eleanor twice in a single week. But perhaps the most terrifying part for the monarchy was realizing Eleanor Alderbridge never came to reclaim the throne. She came to see whether the people sitting on it deserved it. And based on the look in her eyes that night, the answer may have been no. If you enjoyed this cinematic royal drama filled with hidden bloodlines, palace humiliation, and shocking royal secrets, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more unforgettable stories every week.